Oh man, we're live.
Oh, we are?
It says live on Facebook.
Okay, hello.
Here we go.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I don't know if anyone's watching, but if you are, maybe like do the thumbs up at us so that we know that you're watching. So
Yes, that would be super helpful.
anyways, thank you, Heather, for setting up our Zoom meeting and deciding to do this Facebook Live. And so we're doing a tea time, which we haven't done in a while. I mean, it's been forever.
It's been a bit, yes.
And so today, Heather thought we would talk about things to boost your immune system. And so I'm going to let you do that. And I have someone staring at me right now. So let me answer their question. This is like so us, right?
2020, this is what happens. All right. So we have a number of different topics that we're going to talk about as it relates to boosting immunity. And the big question is for each of them, is there evidence or is there not evidence? And then when there is evidence, we're going to talk about like a little detail about how you can, actually do the thing that we're going to talk about.
Right. Or like, what do you need to do? Or
right.
All those things.
Yes. So first one might be super obvious, but it's sleep. Like just getting adequate sleep, right?
Yeah, sleep is so important. That's actually when our body regenerates itself, is only during sleep. That's why like after you eat something, you get tired, because it's called like rest and digest, right? Because we need to rest and we need to digest our food. But also at nighttime, adequate sleep, if you're not getting adequate sleep, kids don't grow enough to their maximum height that they could attain, because that's the only time growth hormone is released. Also, that's when all of your brain chemicals are rejuvenated. And so if you're not sleeping enough, that's why people can hallucinate or get really depressed or anxious, because they're not creating enough of the hormones to make it through the rest of the day. So sleep is really important. So, I think the average is like 7 to 9 minutes. And actually the interesting thing
hours?
Hours, yeah. If only we could only sleep for minutes.
That'd be amazing.
He's so rejuvenated all the time. No, 7 to 9 hours, yes. And men tend to be on the lower end of that spectrum, and women tend to actually be on the upper end. And some women actually need up to 10 hours of sleep at night. Probably because
that's outrageous.
I know, right? Could you imagine like getting 8 hours or 10 hours of sleep? Like I'd be happy with 8, but 10, whoo.
Yeah, no.
But I think it's because women, and like, okay, if you're a man watching, sorry, but women tend to multitask better. They tend to be the one that directs everything, like I know in a lot of big companies, men direct everything, but really in the real world, in the household, women are the captains of the ship,
Yes.
And so because of that, we tend to need a little bit more sleep. We're constantly thinking on multi-planes of
yes, the emotional work of being like in charge of all the minutia of everyone's lives in your family. Like this is why, for no reason at all, your kid says like, where's my Barbie doll head, and you're like, oh yeah, it's under the couch. Like you just like know these things.
That up last week, sorry, it was on the floor and it wasn't attached.
Yeah, but we just like know these things in our heads.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's interesting. We need to be sleeping a whole lot more than we are.
We really do. And we don't let ourselves sleep enough. A lot of times we just run ourselves to the end. But really, sleep is so important. I really kind of put it up there in self-care. And most of my patients actually, like when they come in and they're having these interesting symptoms, one of the first things I always ask them is, how much are you sleeping at night? So when do you go to sleep and when do you wake up? And then are you sleeping that entire time, or are you waking up multiple times? Because that's another thing. Like it's not just how long do you sleep, but is it unbroken sleep? because a lot of times, you know, women, we'll wake up in the middle of the night because we hear something or because the kids need something, or, you know, there's multiple things that wake us up. The
Could
dog,
be hot flashes. Hello.
oh my God, sweats, night sweats. Yeah. So
That's the thing.
it's
Yeah.
the loveliness of getting old.
I know, but it's like so important because of all these reasons that can potentially get disrupted, that we need to work on this. Like you
Yeah.
can't just be like, oh well, I just don't sleep well and that's just life. Like no, like really try to do what you can to get that quality sleep. And you know, I talk a lot with my clients about things like having a bedtime routine and you know, trying to minimize blue light right
Mhm.
before bed. Like don't be like doom scrolling on your phone and then think you're going to drift off to sleep. Like that's, you know,
Right? Don't
for a
watch the
number of
news
reasons.
right before bed, you know, like maybe 10 o'clock news isn't the best thing to be watching. There's a whole
Right.
lot actually about sleep hygiene. And that's actually the first thing that I always go over with all my patients is sleep hygiene. So a little bit about sleep hygiene. Your room should be as dark as possible. So it's really hard for people that are doing shift work because it's daylight out, right? So I recommend
Yeah.
blackout curtains and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
even at nighttime, like, you know, if it's a full moon out or you're in the city, sometimes it doesn't get dark enough in your room. So sometimes those blackout curtains help. The TV, it shouldn't be in your room. It's
Right.
not, you know. We always have our phones, like they're everywhere, right? So I usually tell people to turn any kind of like those messages, those, you know, things that are telling you all these updates and whatever that
Yeah.
you don't need to
Notifications.
know at midnight, you know, turn those off so you're not hearing them.
I tell them to put on airplane mode. That's what I do.
Mhm.
So then you
Yeah,
can like
some
your alarm will still go off, but like nothing else will go through.
exactly. Yep. And there's ways you can set those, anyways, those updates to not come
True.
through until a certain time too.
Yeah,
Um,
that's absolutely
you
true.
can even set your phone, like my phone has this thing that it actually knows not to message me because I tell it I'm going to sleep and then this is when I'm waking up. So it only wakes,
Clever.
it only messages me after my alarm goes off. So there's all those kinds of things. You should definitely have a routine at bedtime. And then TV should be out of your room. Like we shouldn't be watching TV. We should, that includes our phones. That even sometimes includes the Kindles and stuff that people read. Your bed actually should just be for sleeping. You know, we need to train our brains that when we lay down in bed, it's time to go to sleep. And
Yeah,
so that's really super important if you're not getting enough sleep or good sleep.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the other thing I'll tell people is if you've ruled out all this, like you're doing all the sleep hygiene stuff, you're doing everything you possibly can, and you're still having trouble, like talk to your doctor. There are options. Like you don't just have to like suffer and be sleep deprived your
Right.
whole life.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So we could probably keep talking about sleep forever because it's so
Forever.
important.
That could be, if you guys want to hear more about sleep, like just let us know and we can do some more Zooms on it.
You know what? Okay, we totally good. So the next one for immune boosting is stress.
Oh gosh.
Um, there's
There's
so much
no stress
evidence
this
for
year.
stress, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, like this is like this is the test this year. Like if
Right.
you have stress coping strategies, you know, if you don't, like you need to get some because
Yeah.
because you need them this year.
Mhm.
So obviously, like sleep is related to that, right? Like getting good sleep helps you manage your stress better. You
But
know,
unfortunately,
anytime,
some people can't sleep when they're stressed. Like some
right?
people will sleep a lot because they want to avoid the stress.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
sometimes that can be linked with like depression as well, because you can go into depression. It's all kind of linked together, right? So the stress
right.
and then your lack of sleep, right? And then you can't compensate because you're not
Yes,
sleeping well. And so then you get in this vicious cycle. But you can also not sleep because your brain won't let you go to sleep. Like you're constantly thinking about things like what happened during the
yes,
day? What didn't I get done? What do I have to get done tomorrow? All those things.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where. So I think meditation is super helpful because and people always say like, oh, I'm really bad at meditation. Like of course you are, because we don't, if
You're
you haven't
practicing it.
practiced, like why would you know how to do that? Like, we don't know how to turn our brains off. Like, and that's, you can't just be like, okay, I'm going to meditate now and like try not to think. Like,
Right.
it's more complicated than that.
It is,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
but it does take practice, and it can be done if you have a couple of tips or tools to it. Like, there are lots of apps
Mhm,
that'll help you, you know, walk you through meditation,
mhm.
which can be great for beginners because we have this thing where we can't, you know, our brains just keep, you know, firing thoughts at us, and we
Yeah.
have a hard time
Mhm.
not engaging with our thoughts. And that's the trick, is like, you're not going to stop the thoughts from coming in, but you're going to just sort of like let them drift off like a cloud in the sky.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
like to do guided meditations when
Okay.
I am wanting to meditate, just because it is really hard not to think about other things for even 5 minutes, or even
Right.
to think to yourself, oh, I should be like changing out the laundry right now or something,
Mm,
you know?
totally.
And so,
That
really,
gives your brain something to do, right? Like
right.
the guided
So the
meditation.
guided meditation helps me meditate because I can listen and I can do, or I like to visualize too, just
Yes.
because then that's something else that my brain is doing while I'm resting. But then the other
Mhm.
one is yoga. I really like to, and my only problem with yoga is there's all these yoga like classes or videos or whatever that you can watch, but they're all like 30 minutes. And you know, if I'm gonna like try to relax before bedtime or whatever, I don't have time. I don't have 30 minutes. You know, like, I
Yeah.
mean, my reality is that I go to start to do yoga and then I have a kid that jumps on me. So I have like 3 minutes of good yoga or 3 minutes of good meditation before somebody is like, what are you doing? Oh, look, your butt's in the air. I'm going to jump on you. Or, you know, like whatever, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's life right there.
yeah, so I like to do the 10-minute guided meditations. That's
Mhm.
about all I can get. But I have an app called Fit On, which is free, but I guess you can get like an upgraded one. But they have a bunch of 5 minute or less yoga and they have a whole
Whoa.
bunch that are just for like right before bed to relax you. And
Amazing.
they're like 3 to 5 minutes, which is usually what I can get in my day. And they do help, and that app is free. So I mean, you can pay for the upgraded one. I don't know
Great.
what it gets you, but I do the free one and it's free. And they have a lot.
That's pretty great. I mean, probably upgraded gets you even more, but I mean,
Probably.
if you can get by with the free one,
Mhm.
definitely try it. I think that's totally
And
like
I'm sure there's a ton on YouTube
genius.
that you could do too.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and you know what I really like about the guided part, like a guided imagery type of thing, or even like a self-guided imagery, is that you know, you basically like, it sounds like super silly, but like you're like picturing your happy place, right? Like
Right.
you're going
Oh,
to a happy place
absolutely. That's
and
always
you're,
what I'm doing. Mine's the beach.
yes,
I'll just tell
yeah,
you.
of course, right? And
The
you're
waves are
listening to the
rushing down my
sounds
face.
and you're like feeling the sun and you're
Yeah.
smelling the sand and the salty air and like you're immersed in it, and
Yes.
it brings you a level of calm. And you
Mhm.
know what you can do is you can take that with you anywhere at any point in your day. When you're getting amped up, you like, if you've been practicing this, like it doesn't take long for you to like start picturing the beach, and like all of a sudden, you know, your blood pressure comes down, your heart rate comes
Yeah. Yeah.
down, and you have this sense of calm because you've been practicing.
Yeah.
And that is like the whole thing about meditation, right? Is
Mhm.
it takes practice, and like
Yeah.
just a couple of minutes at a time.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't take long. I have two. One is the beach, and then one is in the woods with a fire crackling. I like to hear the sound
Ooh,
of the fire crackling and the crispiness of the
yes.
leaves under your feet. That's the other one that I use. So, and you're
Okay.
right, it takes like 5 minutes to kind of calm down and get, get moving on whatever you need to do, whether it's sleep or just like be able to focus again at work because something disrupted your day or whatever. Because every day has, multiple disruptions lately.
Yeah, sure does. Yes. Okay. So that is meditation. Another topic. We could just go on and on because it's super helpful for people. Okay. So we have sleep, we have meditation. We talked a little bit about exercise, which, yoga can kind of do both of those things for you, but certainly
And actually, like,
being
if you're going before sleep, you should not exercise,
correct.
right?
Right.
Because that's gonna rev up your metabolism and make you more awake. So, and it usually makes you awake for like an hour or two after, which is the
Yeah.
same thing with TV. We should comment on that. There's a lot of data out there that shows that TV will activate your brain for 2 hours after. So if you turn the TV off at 10, you can
Wow.
pretty much bet that you're not going to get into a good REM sleep until midnight. And that's especially important in kids. Kids will not go to sleep until 2 hours after the TV or any kind of screen time. So, Nintendo, iPads, phones, laptops, whatever it is, it's
Mm-hmm.
2 hours. So,
Right. And
hungry,
if you are falling asleep, it's probably because like you're that tired.
right? Yeah.
Like people always say they fall asleep, the TV helps
But
them fall asleep. It's
yeah, but
like it doesn't.
it's not a deep
Not good.
sleep. They'll
Yeah.
oftentimes wake up because they hear something on the TV. Or a lot of them, if
Right.
you ask them what their dreams are about, it's about a show that's playing in the background.
Wow. That's really that's telling right there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So earlier in the day, exercise is certainly helpful for managing stress, right?
Oh
As
yeah.
long as you're choosing something that you enjoy, it doesn't have to be exercise, just some kind of movement, like
Yeah.
just
Walking.
walking and
Mhm.
whatever. But getting your body moving helps you manage stressful situations.
Yes.
Um, so that's really important. Oh, and then related to that one, we have nature and sunshine
Yeah.
to
I
help
was
with stress.
so I was reading something this weekend about nature and stress and how, like, in general nature tends to calm people down.
Mhm.
The energy that's flowing in nature is whole different than the energy flowing in the city. And so I was reading this article about everyone's getting told to, like, go into nature, go for a hike, go for a walk, go for whatever.
Right?
And like people are getting stressed out about getting into nature. So like it's, wherever you're at, really.
Yes.
If it's stressful for you to drive to somewhere and go for a hike, then just walk in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Um, the one thing right now that you want to maybe keep away from is like classes with a lot of people in them where you're sweating and huffing and puffing because you don't want to get sick. But if you can go for a walk or a bike ride with your kids, being on a walk with your kids or on a bike ride or with somebody
Mhm.
else talking is actually a huge stress relief. And also, and nature is everywhere, like you don't have to be under the title of nature. It's outside, right? It's just outside.
Right. You could be
Nature's
on your back porch.
right. Yeah, it
Mhm.
doesn't have to. You could be even like playing games outside, playing catch with your kids. That's being in nature. So, we don't have to
Right.
be stressed out about the semantics of what nature is. It's just whatever is your nature. Just get outside,
Yes.
fresh air, get the sun on your face, that kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, you really shouldn't be stressed about your stress management
Right.
strategies. Like, that's not the point at all.
Exactly.
So, and then there's self-care, of course. Like we've kind of alluded to self-care along the way here. You might have other things that help you, um, you
God.
know, give
Lots of
you
women is getting their hair done, their nails done, and some of that has been blunted this last year. But, I think if you're wearing a mask, you can go get your hair done. If
right.
you're wearing a mask, you
And
can
they're
go get
wearing a
your
mask.
nails done. Yeah, and I think everyone's wearing masks everywhere that they're at. So I think that if that makes you feel better, then go get it done. If it makes
Right.
you anxious that you're afraid you're going to pick up the COVID, then don't go get it done.
Right.
Like I actually, like, one of my favorite things, I don't have to go somewhere and get my nails done. One of my favorite things is actually for my kids to paint my nails. I think it's funny. Like, Even my son tries to paint my nails and it's like my toes get painted, but it's fun,
Right.
you
That
know, and
is
I
fun.
don't have to do
Yeah.
it. And we're spending time together and they
Everybody
think it's
wins.
fun. Yeah. You know, and so, and even my oldest, she'll actually do art on my nails, which is like super cool. And so, you know,
That's
you
good.
don't necessarily have to go somewhere to do that stuff as long as it's making you feel better about yourself, is really what it is.
Nice. Yeah. So whatever self-care means for you, like do that for sure.
Yep.
Okay. Now, if you're doing all these things and you're still like really struggling with stress, and possibly anxiety, then time to see the doctor or maybe seek out a therapist, maybe
Mhm.
both.
Both. I mean, I think that I kind of link like counseling. A lot of people feel like maybe it's weak if I go to a counselor, or maybe I'm weak if I need to talk to my doctor about anxiety and or depression. And I just don't see it that way. I think it's really strong that people take that step. And I see counseling and medicine equal, you know. And most of my patients, if I'm starting a medicine with them, I'm also saying, what about seeing a counselor? Because like the medicine is a band-aid, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're having stress and you don't know how to handle it, or you don't know like what's really causing it, or why am I flipping out so much, or whatever it is, right? Then you need to get to the root cause of that. And sometimes that's having somebody ask you probing questions and making you think about things that you didn't want to think about, right? Like that's
That's right.
what we do a lot, is avoid, 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 right? If I avoid, it'll go away. But that's not the case. It's like
Mm-hmm.
whatever's bugging me didn't go away, just like my high blood pressure didn't go away because I avoided it, right? So you need to talk about it. And then the nice thing about the counselors are that they're also going to teach you coping mechanisms on like, what do I do when this happens? What's going to work with me when this happens? And then how can I get over it? So that then I can move on and be a more authentic self, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe after I have looked at everything and managed everything, then I can also get off of the medicines that I'm on, because some
Right.
people need them their whole lives and other people need them for a short period of time, like just an event. There's an event that I need help getting over or through this event, whatever it is. There's all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of, COVID might be the event, the fact that you're working full time and also teaching your kids at home full time. That might be the event. It might be that you lost a loved one. It might be that you're having financial issues. I mean, there's so many things
Maybe you
that
just had a baby.
maybe you just had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you lost a baby, you know, maybe you
Yeah.
just had a miscarriage. Maybe, you know, I mean, there's just so many maybes out there that we all deal with regularly. And those little events, that they don't need to stop you, right? Like we need to push through them and get to the other side, but sometimes you need help with that. And that's kind of where the counseling and the medication can come in handy. So,
Yeah. No
because
shame
the
in it
goal
for
is
sure.
to, you know, get us back to ourself, right? To get us
Yeah.
back to being our happy self, whatever that is, you know, our baseline.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So again, stress, huge topic,
Oh my gosh.
huge,
Like
but
everything, it's all tied in, right?
it's all tied in, right? Like that's, you're going to see this like throughout here. So the next one, so we talked about sleep, we talked about stress, and then the next one is exercise, which obviously ties into like how well you sleep, and it ties into how well you manage your stress. So all tied together, but separately, exercise can help boost your immunity too, right? But there's also an upper limit. Like you don't want to go so hard at the gym that like you're sore for days, or you've injured yourself. Like that's not good for your immunity. But exercising on a regular basis and a reasonable amount, it actually does boost immunity, right?
It does, yeah. And you know, like you have to think, if you push yourself too hard or you are you know, you injure yourself, like you sometimes you injure yourself because you get injured, right? Like things happen.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you injure yourself because you push yourself too hard.
Mhm.
So if you are, pushing yourself so hard that you're injuring yourself, or you're just pushing yourself too hard, your body has to repair that.
Right.
So if your body's repairing that, it can't focus on other things that are coming in. I mean, our bodies are amazing and can fight off so many things. But if we're already like, if our body needs us to be up here because that's where our immune system is, and we're down here because we are pushing ourselves too hard, we're not getting enough sleep. Sometimes when you push yourself too hard, right, your exercise becomes a stress.
Yes.
And that's not what you
Yes.
want, right? It's supposed to be a stress reliever. It's
It
supposed
is
to make us
not
feel
what you're going for.
better, not worse. And so if that's the
Mhm.
case, then your immune system is starting to come down. It's just like the lack of and all the other things. You have to, it's a balance, right? Like everything is in moderation, even exercise.
Yeah.
But it's important to do. Like, the recommendation right now is 30 to 60 minutes of moderate intensity exercise most days of the week. And moderate intensity means that you can have a conversation, but it's like you're like, Heather, what'd you do today? It's not like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, how'd your day go? No, it's more, and it's not like, Heather, what'd you do today? Like you can
Yeah,
kind of have a conversation with that. So
totally. Excellent. Yes, that's a really good tip. Okay, so before we get into diet and supplements, there's the matter of, I just kind of lumped these things all together, even though they're obviously have their own separate um, relations to immunity.
mhm.
Alcohol,
Mm.
tobacco, drugs,
Mhm.
and then like I'm saying, I put sugar in the same category, not because I don't think it has anything to do with these other things, but because it's
Oh,
something that people think of as like something we should avoid or limit
mhm.
as it relates to immune function.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's why I lumped it in, because it's more of the like, don't do this versus do
Oh,
this.
sure.
And
Yeah.
is there evidence for any of that stuff?
Yeah.
So my understanding about alcohol, for one, is that like alcohol moderation maybe doesn't have much of an impact, but like excess alcohol or excessive use or like chronic excessive use can contribute to immune function.
So, you're absolutely right. Alcohol in moderation, and moderation in females is 1 8 ounce, 8 ounce. Yeah, I think it's 8 ounces of alcohol. It's a small amount. Like, our wine glasses are like this big, right? But it's like actually
I
like
think it's 4 ounces of
four
wine,
ounces.
actually, four to
It might
six.
be 4 ounces. Yeah, because wine
Yeah,
tends to have more. Yeah,
right.
4 to 6. Um, it's one serving
Yeah,
of alcohol daily. Men, it's 1 to 2.
1 to 2.
And so, yeah, because they're bigger and whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing with alcohol is it doesn't always give you a restful sleep. So
Yes.
it might make you go to sleep, but then a lot of times your sleep isn't as restful, or it's not as deep, or you might wake up during it. So the one thing, alcohol, like we've talked about with the Mediterranean diet before, and is that alcohol can boost your cholesterol, your HDL, right? So you just have
Mm.
to, again, like I don't want you to start drinking alcohol to help yourself sleep, or start drinking alcohol to boost your cholesterol. But if you are drinking it, maybe look at how much you're drinking if you're having trouble getting to sleep or staying asleep, or maybe look at when you're drinking it.
Right.
That's another thing, how much and when, because you don't want to do too much. It's not going to help you go to sleep, plus it's going to your liver has to process that, and so if your liver is processing that, it's not paying as much attention to the other stuff that it also needs to process. So
Yeah. That's, yeah.
I think
Good
with
points.
sugar amps us up, right? The only people that don't get amped up on sugar are the reactive hypoglycemics, right? That they have a sugar rush and then they crash because their insulin overproduces and gets rid of all that sugar. But sugar, you don't want added sugar to things. But I think, if you're having some fruit or something, that kind of sugar is okay. Maybe you don't want it right before bed though. Although I have read, and I don't know, maybe you can comment on it, um, that having like a fat and a carb before bed, so like maybe an apple with peanut butter or banana with peanut butter or something like that before bed can actually maintain your sugar levels through the night and help you to sleep better. What do you think?
And that is definitely something like for people with diabetes that we talk about. If they're having difficulty, like if they're waking in the night and they don't know why, or they wake and then they have a low blood sugar, like that is something that we'll tell people to do. I don't know, like if that's something that people who don't have diabetes really need to worry about, but like there's not really any like harm in trying that. Like, having a pretty, not a huge snack. You don't have to have like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but you could have like, one piece of bread with some peanut butter on it, or an apple or banana with peanut butter. Like those are pretty small snacks. They're not going to like disrupt your sleep. Maybe it'll help through the
Yeah,
night. It's worth a try, and there's like no harm to it. So like, why not give that a shot?
right.
My other thoughts about like sugar and immunity is just, there's some question of like excessive sugar, reducing your immunity. And I don't know if that there's that much to that, but I think it's reasonable to think, especially when we start getting into like what we recommend to boost your immunity with food is like,
Yeah.
if you're eating lots of like processed foods and lots of added sugars, you're probably going to miss out on the stuff that
Really
is
good.
going to be beneficial.
Yeah. So sugar is funny. Sugar and carbohydrates, they get processed into our fat system, right? When we're not, when we have too much and our
Mhm.
body can't push it into anywhere else, it's going to push it into our fat system. And actually, what ends up happening with excess carbohydrates and excess sugar is that when it's going into the adipose cells, right, the fat cells, they start to grow, right? And what ends up happening is that like the cell looks kind of like this, right? It has a matrix around it, which is like a skeleton that holds all the stuff in there. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So as it's starting to grow, the cell tries to accommodate for that sugar, but it starts to like, as my fingers can't touch, right? Neither can the cell. So it starts to send out this message that is Mayday, Mayday,
Mhm.
danger, Will Robinson, danger, right? And so then it calls in other cells that come in and try to build that matrix stronger, right? Because it has to hold that stuff. It's like, I got to hold this in here, but I'm getting too big for my britches. And so then it sends out more signals, right? Because that matrix still isn't strong enough. And so it's constantly sending out this matrix, which is actually inflammatory cells. It brings in inflammatory cells.
Okay.
Inflammatory cells make our immune system go down, right? Because we're chronically inflamed. And
Right.
so actually there is something to what you're saying, like decrease that sugar, the excess sugar, because you don't want this chronic inflammation going on in your system.
Okay. So that's interesting. It sounds like that process is happening when you've like had is it an excess of calories from sugar,
It's
or is
as
it
it's like if your diet is full of sugar and you're
okay?
constantly having this extra sugar and fats that are being pushed into your liver system to be stored, then that's what's starting to happen. Your liver and your adipose cells are sending out these signals that are like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I need help over here. And when the cells come in and they're like, oh man, this is a mess. We need more help. And so then and it's this almost like this negative feedback loop, right? They're sending out more to come in that are sending out more to come in.
Right,
So
right.
it ends up lowering your immune system.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. All right. Well, that's a great segue into diet, but we I don't want to gloss over tobacco and
Oh
illegal
yeah.
drugs, right? Because like I don't know that anyone would argue that they're going to boost your immune system.
Right. No. They don't. I mean, smoking is, it
Like
doesn't
there's
matter
no
how
safe
you're
level.
smoking, there's no safe level of smoking. It doesn't matter what you're smoking, right? So
Yeah.
there's no safe level. Like our lungs weren't made to take in this other stuff, right? We're made to clear out the oxygen, clean out the oxygen, put it into our blood and clear out the CO2 and take it out. That's what we're made to do. We're not made to take in this other stuff that we take in. And so, when you're taking that stuff in, your body has to clear it regardless, right? So if you're smoking something, it doesn't matter what you're smoking, your lungs have to clear that. And they have these little cilia, they're little hair cells. They're really tiny and they kind of go like this. And their job is to move stuff up and out, right? It's like moves like this and it tries to move the gunk up and out. But when there's too much gunk in there, they can't do anything. They're just like stuck. Like,
Yeah.
I can't do it,
And there's the gunk building up.
And then the gunk builds up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then your body has to fight that somehow, right? So then it has to do this instead of doing the other things.
Right.
So,
Right. Okay. So those are the things that are suppressing your immune system because you're keeping it busy, like trying to fight off stuff. Where there's lots of dietary stuff that will help keep inflammation down, right, and keep your immune system strong. So the first thing actually is hydration. Like,
look, that was perfect.
How apropos right there. Yeah, so staying adequately hydrated, super important for just overall function like of your entire body, pretty much. To
You got to flush your kidneys, right? Like your
Yeah.
urine should be clear at the end of the day. So if your kidneys aren't getting flushed, they can't filter stuff. If your blood doesn't have enough volume, you can't, keep your blood pressure, but also you can't filter stuff, right? Your body needs the volume to carry immune cells everywhere. Your lymph system is like mostly water, right? And immune cells. So it needs the water or else it's sludgy. I don't know. It's sludgy, but I imagine it is.
You can imagine.
The rest of you kind of feels sludgy.
But it is worth mentioning that it doesn't have to be plain water, that you can get, anything that has water in it, except like mixed drinks. Like, okay, if you're going to mix it with alcohol, then no.
That goes back to the
dehydrating. Yeah. But like, almost anything else, will hydrate you. So, it doesn't have to be plain water. People get really hung up on that if they don't like water, and it's like a whole big thing.
Or the flavor of it or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Like, okay, like if you drink tea, like guess what? You're
soda doesn't
hydrated.
count though, right? So
soda, I mean, I think it still hydrates, but obviously it just comes with its own issues.
Yeah. I count it as a liquid, but then I tell my patients that I don't count it because like it comes with so many other things,
Right.
So
yeah. Okay, so then these are some of the other
hydration. That's what I call it. We want healthy hydration, right? So
smart. Yes. So of course, fruits and vegetables are the first things that come to mind, right?
Are there any that you think of as like boosters, immune boosters, fruits and vegetables, super fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we think of like berries as being antioxidants, right, and like kale and like dark leafy greens as having lots of antioxidants. But I generally tell people like a variety is good. If you only eat like one or two fruits and one or two vegetables, like try to work on getting more variety. It doesn't really matter if you're getting variety. You don't have to worry about like, oh, I didn't eat any blueberries, or oh, I hate blueberries, what am I going to do? Like, you'll be perfectly fine. Yeah, just eat something else. So
what do you think of what do you think of those smoothies? What do you think of smoothies? Like if they're getting their berries and stuff in smoothies?
I think smoothies have a really important role to play when people struggle with like eating breakfast, let's say, like they're not big breakfast eaters, or not big fruit eaters, like they have texture
Mhm.
complaints about fruits or vegetables, like a smoothie could be a really good way to get those things in. Like me, I like to eat and like chew my food. So I don't do smoothies. Like I always think, oh, that'll be a neat idea. But I'm like, no, I'd rather like actually eat and chew and like it's more satisfying
Yeah.
to me. So it just totally depends. But I think they have a really good role to play in certain
Okay.
situations.
Sure. Yeah.
So then there's legumes, of course, and
Mhm.
then like, you know, we can kind of lump like legumes and nuts and seeds and like soybeans in there too. Like they
Mhm.
each have their own benefits to like reducing inflammation,
Right.
boosting immunity. And I should like preface all this food stuff with like, you don't have to eat all of these things that we're going through like every single day, you
Right.
know, like this should just be in your diet like
Yeah.
generally, but don't be like stressing about like, oh, I didn't eat any nuts today and now I have to get some fatty fish and then I have to eat the, you know, it's like it's okay. It's just about like overall, what does your diet look like? Okay,
Right. Yeah.
again, back to the stress, like if it's causing
Right.
stress,
Yeah.
you know.
Once I had somebody was like, well, I can't eat this and this and this. So what can I eat? Like, right. Yeah.
Right,
Sometimes we say, don't eat this or this or this. And it just becomes like we almost wipe people's diets out completely. Which maybe those diets should be wiped out, um, but
it's
you
not
have
that helpful, right, to hear that.
right, like we want you to still eat, right? So then how can we add in stuff into your diet? So like if
That's
you're
right.
getting a cheeseburger at McDonald's or something, right? Then if you know that you do that every single day, maybe you take lettuce and tomato and onion with you and add it in there that's fresh from your house. Or maybe you have them add it in on there for you. But I think a lot of their onions are cut. So maybe you go for the fresh stuff. You take it in your little baggie and you put it in there.
Right. Or
You
you
know,
like snack on carrots later or like a piece
right.
of fruit or something.
Yeah.
Like you figure out how to balance things out. Like you
There's
work
other
with
ways.
your current diet. You don't just think like, oh, I eat terribly, like I have to do an overhaul. You know,
Right.
that's not probably gonna go over well. I'm just guessing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So I alluded to like fatty fish because we want to get omega-3 fatty acids, right? They
Are
reduce
so
inflammation.
anti-inflammatory. Yeah. Anti-inflammatory.
Yes. So fatty fish being salmon,
Mhm.
tuna, sardines,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Sardines are high in B12 too, right? So
mhm,
it's
yeah,
another way to get some B12. Um, I can't do sardines, like not even on pizza.
yeah, most people can.
I even have trouble like walking down the aisle and like looking at the can. So
Wow.
like I know, I just can't. Oh, it's like
Yeah,
making me want to vomit in my mouth right now just thinking about it. But some of you people
they might
like,
be into it.
and if you like them, hey,
That's
you
right.
eat my sardines for me. So,
And you
but
can have mine too.
yeah, but some people don't like fish at all. Like I'm lucky that I can eat fish, right? But actually, when I was pregnant with all of my kids, I couldn't eat it. Like it made me want to vomit. The smell made me want to like, and so, if you're one of those people, you could do fish oil, right?
Hmm.
You can add in some fish oil. Fish oil is great for your joints. Like a lot of people think that it's mainly for your cholesterol, but I don't even lump it into the cholesterol stuff anymore. There's some newer data coming out about fish oil and your cholesterol that we need to like raise it up or something. But I recommend fish oil for joint pain. It is wonderful for joint
Interesting.
pain. Yeah. But it does thin your blood, just so that you know. So if you are an
Excellent.
easy bruiser, then you're going to end up bruising easier than you
Yeah,
are.
even easier.
So
Yes.
just know that,
All right. And
Mm.
then for vegetarians, there's flaxseed oil you can
Mhm.
use. And then there's chia seeds,
I was going
which
to say that too, chia.
those are my preference in all of that.
And flaxseed, like you can grind it, and so you can put it in different things. Sometimes I put flaxseed, like the powder kind, in bread. So if I make like rolls or something, homemade rolls, I'll put it in bread. Or if I make a like a loaf of bread at home, then I put it in there just to add the fiber and the omega into
Yeah.
it. And chia, I
Or
put chia into yogurt now. It adds
yeah,
fiber, lots of fiber. It's
it
good.
does. It
Yeah.
does have fiber. It's got all sorts of good stuff in there. You can put in your smoothie if you're making a smoothie. You can put
Yeah.
either one of those in there. Oh, and I should mention hemp seeds are also good with
Mhm.
omega 3s. They
You have to watch. So something that I have learned this last year, if you have kidney disease, you have to watch the hemp seeds if you're a hemp seed person.
okay, good to know.
Yeah, they have a few electrolytes that are higher in them, like potassium and stuff like that. So if you're a kidney patient, you actually need to go lower on them. And the I think they're higher in oxalate too. And so that also you can create kidney stones and stuff like that. So you just have to be careful with when you're choosing them, the stuff. Um,
Mhm.
you know, look at
Right.
what your medical history looks like too, because we think about these things as just being food, but there's other part. If you have different kinds of illnesses, like especially kidney disease, then
Right.
they can play a role. So just
Right.
kind of
I mean, I think it's just a good example that like nature does like natural doesn't always equal safe. Like depends,
yeah.
right? If you're on
Mhm.
medications or you have a condition, like maybe
Yeah,
this is going to be a problem for you just because it's
exactly.
natural and food.
Yeah.
So we've sort of been alluding to, we keep talking about anti-inflammatory, and we're sort of alluding to like gut health, right? Like this sort
Mhm.
of general idea of like having a healthy gut. And certainly all this anti-inflammatory stuff is helpful to keeping your gut healthy because, right, the gut is sort of like the center of the immune system. So if your gut is happy, then the rest of you will be happy.
Yeah.
But it's not, if it's not, then there's a problem. So just
And
a
if it's
couple of
not, you usually know about it because you're like bloated and gassy
yes, this is true.
and constipated or
It will
diarrhea,
let you know.
one of the two.
So many things could go wrong in the gut, but well, yeah, if something is happening, it's usually an indication of like stuff is off balance, like something's going on there. So there's like the healthy bacteria that you have in there, the probiotics, and then you also need the prebiotics, which is the
Right?
food that those probiotics eat to keep alive. So you can get probiotics from like fermented vegetables. You can get them from kombucha, which is
Mhm.
kind of fun, or kefir, which is like yogurt, like a liquid yogurt, but it
Yeah.
has a lot more probiotics in it than yogurt. Miso is another option. That's like a fermented soy
Mhm.
that you can make like miso soup with. You can do a lot of things with miso. And if you can't get it from food, there are supplements. I like to think, obviously, I think get it from food if you can. When it comes to the, go ahead.
Some people just like don't like those things. That's kind of what I run into. So then I recommend a probiotic. I recommend a probiotics. So a lot of people will, I mean, we all have gotten that GI bug, right? So we've all gotten the stomach bug before, and then you have this diarrhea and vomiting sometimes with it. And then the next week you have gas and bloating, right? And the reason is that you have just gotten rid of all of your good bacteria. It's no longer in your gut. And now we need to replenish that, right? And so I tell people to start a probiotic. That is actually when I tell people to supplement a probiotic. And a lot of people are like, they get back to me 2 or 3 days. I still have this gas and bloating. It takes a month of daily
Oh,
probiotic use to replenish your gut. So I always tell people if you're vomiting, diarrhea, once the vomiting stops, you start your probiotic and you take it daily for a month.
wow.
Unless you can do like the kefir or the yogurt every day. If you can do kefir or yogurt, then you do that. But otherwise, if you can't because you don't like the texture, the taste, or whatever it is, then probiotic. And it's daily for a month. So you have to have realistic expectations. This doesn't get better overnight. Like you don't just dump a bunch in and then they're all happy, right? You have to dump it in and keep dumping it in, and then you have to feed them.
Yes. Wow. That is a really good important point. And so the feeding them is they eat fiber. So all kinds of fiber is fine, but they really like bananas. They like garlic and onions. They like inulin, which is like a chicory root. Sometimes
Mhm.
that's like added to things.
Mhm.
But they'll eat like all kinds of fiber. So as long as there's like some fiber in your diet, you're feeding your gut bacteria. But if you're like doing something very low carb or like no carb, you're
Mhm.
probably going to miss out on
The
fiber.
feeding. Yeah.
So sometimes the probiotics actually have prebiotics added now
Mhm.
because some people don't eat them.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is like if you're doing the fiber, you want to do more of the soluble fiber when you're thinking about this, because the insoluble fiber is going to create more gas and bloating, right? And so if you already have gas and bloating and then you do insoluble fiber, it's going to be more gas and bloating. So,
Yes.
just also if you're when you're looking at what do we want to give them, do the more soluble fiber stuff.
Right. Definitely to start up because when you don't have those probiotics like built up in your gut, you're going to get that gas and bloating from the insoluble fiber.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right. So now the last part here is to just talk about supplements and whether there are supplements that are helpful to boosting immunity. There's lots of vitamins like vitamins A and D and C. I generally think if you can get it from food, you should get it from food.
Mhm.
Vitamin D is really my main
It's
exception.
Yeah, it is so hard to get vitamin D from your food. So
Yeah.
I always recommend just a supplement on that. But you might also want to have your vitamin D level checked, because if you don't need to supplement it because you're already getting it in whatever form that you're getting it, maybe it's
Right.
a vitamin or a diet, some of it in your diet or whatever, then you
Or
just
that sunshine because you're out in nature.
yeah, I mean, some people live in an area where they can get a lot of vitamin D. And some people's
Yes.
body processes the sun differently, right? So they can get
True.
it from however, and some people just get it in the different assortments of food that they're getting. So, maybe some bodies are a little bit more um, adequate, I guess, at processing the vitamin D. Um,
Yeah, it's interesting.
and so, right? So, some people's will be higher. And so if you're in the good range, you don't need to supplement, you know,
Yeah,
to get it checked first.
it's always good to check these things out, not just like randomly supplement if you
Right.
don't need it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That goes for any supplement, really,
Right.
especially like the magnesium and all of that stuff, sodium and whatever. You want to know what you're at first before you go adding
Right.
more, because more sometimes creates toxic events, and that's not good either. So,
Right. You're just like over here playing doctor. I mean, and like you're in the dark. Like
yeah.
you're just
Yeah,
guessing.
literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vitamin C is sort of an interesting one. I do think there's something to be said for like getting adequate or maybe even extra vitamin C if you like felt like you were coming down with something. I don't know. Do you think that there's something to that, like and
So the
needing to supplement?
data, what the studies show is that zinc and vitamin C both
Mhm.
actually need to be on board before you get sick.
Okay.
So it's more of something that if you can get on a daily basis in some fashion, that would be better. And it doesn't have to be a supplement. Some people do airborne, some people do emergency. If you're doing that, only one a day. Like don't go overboard. That's why if you go higher, you can get diarrhea, because higher doesn't always mean better. But if you like my water, everyone complains about water being so gross. I actually put orange, like essential oil, orange in mine, or lemon, or lime, or tangerine, like whatever citrusy vitamin C one that I feel like adding to it, I put a drop in it. And you have to, if you do that, you have to have a metal container because it will eat through the plastic, right?
Classic.
But
Yeah, good
I
point.
do that to flavor my water. And so I have a little bit of vitamin C every day. But you really need the vitamin C and the zinc to be on board before you get sick.
Or
You can
excellent.
increase it when you get sick so that your body has more available, because a lot of viruses will run through your zinc, right? And so if you don't have enough, then your system starts to run down. And so if you are increasing it a little bit when you get sick, that's fine. But to do the, like, to be able to say that the vitamin C and the zinc are helping me get better, you have to have it on board before. Your body has to have an adequate amount first. So
There you go.
yeah,
Eat your food, people.
eat your food. Or like, do your essential oil or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I love that.
Yeah, like that's how I flavor my water. It's got peppermint in it because sometimes I get the bubble guts and nobody wants the bubble guts, right? And so peppermint oil is good for irritable bowel. So if
Yeah.
you get the bubble guts every so often or whatever, then peppermint oil is actually on the list of one of the first line treatments now for irritable bowel. So you could, so I put peppermint oil in there and I put some kind of vitamin C in there.
Neat.
Yeah. And then it makes my water taste. My kids are always like, I want to drink your water. It tastes so much better than mine. Yeah, because yours is plain and mine is flavored. And it doesn't have the added sugars, from like
Right.
the squeezy. Or for me, my something that you guys probably don't know, but my family has a hereditary kidney disease. And so I treat my kidneys as if I have it. I don't know if I have it, but I treat myself as if I do. So I do not want extra dyes and stuff going through my kidneys. So that's why I never use those like, color flavory things. I just,
Neato or
yeah, I just do the essential oils and it flavors it. And
yeah.
obviously my kids like it. So it
I
works,
know. That's it. If kids like it, it's obviously good.
right?
So selenium is another one that sometimes gets some play. I can't even tell you what it's in. Like it's
I
in
don't know.
everything,
Yeah.
right? And there you need such a small amount that
Mhm.
like if you eat a variety of foods and like the stuff we talked about before, like the fatty fish and like the fruits and vegetables and the legumes and the nuts and whole grains, like it's in like all the stuff.
Yeah.
So just eat a varied diet and like you shouldn't have to worry about like getting a selenium supplement. You should be able to get
And I think that if you're worried, a multivitamin,
it.
right? So
Yes.
most of these things you can find in a multivitamin. You don't need to have five, just one. One.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like it's not a replacement for food, but it's if you
Right.
want that insurance, like that's a smart way to do it. Just, get a national brand of a multivitamin. All right, there's a couple more. Elderberry.
Mm.
What do you think about elderberry?
So, there's some stuff out there that says that elderberry can help you fight off viruses. And other things actually as
Right.
well. Some of the data is very conflicting. I don't think it hurts you. Well, unless your elderberry isn't processed correctly, because elderberry processes as a byproduct is cyanide, right? So you don't want to.
Good point.
So,
Don't want that.
but elderberry in and of itself, if you want to try it, I think that it's fine. I am a tea liker, right? So I love tea. And usually in our tea, we will put, when we're sick, I do an elderflower tea. If I don't do any of the elderberry cough syrups or anything, I just do an elderflower tea. And then I put thieves oil in it, which I call it Christmas oil because it reminds me of Christmas. It has like cinnamon and some other stuff in it. And thieves oil, I don't know if you know the story about thieves oil from Young Living, but thieves oil, the concoction got created was because the grave diggers that used to rob the graves, they would create this mixture so they didn't get the sickness of whoever the person had that died. And so it's called thieves oil. So I put it in there just because it does boost your immune system and it also flavors it nicely. So I'll do elderflower tea, which you can get. I think it's Yogi brand has one. There's one that's called Throat Coat, and one that's called Gypsy Tea, and it has elderflower in it. And we do it. It tastes nice, and I usually throw a tea bag in with like other tea bags just to have a little mixture in there. So I think that there is information out there that it's just conflicting, whether it helps or not. I don't know. But
Right.
I don't think it's going to hurt as long as it's processed correctly. So,
Yeah.
maybe if you don't know how to process the elderberry and you have some on your land, maybe you shouldn't be making tea from it, but that might be harmful. But if
Right. But you could buy some at the store.
yeah, if you're
For
getting
sure.
them at the store, I think that's fine. And some people use the cough syrups, the elderberry cough syrup for, especially for kids, because you're not supposed to use cough syrups for kids, and it's mainly to
Yes.
boost the immune system, and that's probably okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I think there's something to be said for like doing something that's safe, not going to harm you. And if it makes you feel like you're doing something positive, like that's worth something, right?
Right.
Like
Exactly.
just feeling like you're taking care of yourself
Mhm.
is worth it in itself, like as long as you're not actually harming yourself in the process. So
Exactly. I agree.
cool. Echinacea.
Echinacea. So that, it's always mixed up in there with zinc and vitamin C and it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. And and I don't honestly know if echinacea helps or doesn't. But I believe it's one of those things that needs to be on board ahead of time, just like everything else.
Okay.
I think the tea that I usually do has echinacea in it as well. It's like an immune boost tea. There's an immune boost tea out there that has like echinacea and I think elderflower in it or something like that. And so, I think it goes along with zinc and vitamin C, and selenium and and copper, because zinc and copper actually go together. And so I think it all works together. And I think if you are able to get that in your diet, then hey, you're doing good. So I don't think it's gonna hurt you
All right.
unless
I
you do
think
too
that's
much. Like everything is, if you do too much, it's gonna hurt you, right? But
right.
I think that if you want to use it, you should have it on board beforehand. So it's just like that whole thing. If you're using it regularly, so if you know that you're going into flu season or cold season or whatever, maybe that's the time to start it. But you don't have to do it all the time. But maybe that's the time to start and do it through the winter. And then once things calm down, then you can go off of whatever it is that you're doing it with.
Yeah.
A lot of people do airborne and emergency because it has all of that in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point. Okay, the last one I have is turmeric or turmeric,
Mhm.
which, kind of back to this like anti-inflammatory.
Mhm.
It seems to have anti-inflammatory qualities, but I think you need to take an amount of it that's not really that feasible to do like dietary wise. Like,
Yeah. And I'm not sure. I mean, I know it does work with your immune system. Turmeric actually also works with your mood. So a lot of people use it
oh,
for enhancing their mood. Um, I think that the not normal, what am I saying? Average diet doesn't have a lot of turmeric in it. So
right.
um, I think that I don't know if that's something, it has a quite an interesting taste, turmeric. Um,
Perfect.
and so I think that if you like that taste, then you should, and you can get it in your diet regularly, then I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
It's definitely, there is data out there that shows that it does improve mood. But I think that if you don't like that taste and you don't, and it's not in your diet regularly, then it's probably like, don't lose stress about it, like just move on.
Yeah.
It's okay to not
There
have.
are like teas. Like I think you can make it into a tea or something, right?
I think there's also capsules that have it.
Yeah.
You can take it as a capsule form too.
You
Yeah.
can. Mhm.
Yeah. But I hear that people still taste it in the capsule. Like some people will burp it up. So.
I guess it's just like the fish oil. I think certain people have an issue with that too, but
They
some
do.
people don't. I've taken the capsules of turmeric for like knee pain just to kind of rule out
Mhm.
inflammation going on in there. I never had that happen to
Yeah,
me. So it
yeah.
just probably just
I think
depends.
it's everybody's different, right? So,
Right.
but I don't think there's anything wrong with taking it and trying it, right? I think that's okay.
Right.
As long as you're doing it in moderation. Like you don't want to, follow the instructions on there. And you do have to
Right.
watch out. Some of those supplements can interact with different medicines. So you do
Yeah.
have to watch out for that.
Right. And so I was just going to say to kind of like sum up, especially about the supplements, like you need to be talking about these things with your doctor. Especially if you take meds, like there could be interactions going on with your condition or with your medications. And your doctor can look it up if they don't know offhand. Um, you can also talk to a dietitian. We can look these things up as well.
Yep.
If any of this stuff sounds like it's inducing your stress because you're like, oh, I don't do that, or I don't know how to do that, or
Yeah.
whatever, like if you need help, like you should reach out for help, like instead of just
Yeah.
stressing about it.
Exactly. And like, during this whole talk, take what works for you and leave the
Right.
rest behind. There's no reason to stress about it. Just take what
Right.
works for you.
We're just giving you a menu of options. You don't have to
Right?
select
Lots of
the
them.
entire, it's
You
not like
and
an
that's
all you
why.
can eat.
Right. Like that's why we're doing it because some things will work for people and some things won't. And so like don't stress about the things that don't work for you. Just do the things that do and move
Yeah.
on.
How fun is this?
Right? Oh, this is so good.
It's like old times. I
Right?
tell
We'll have
you.
to do some more. If you guys
Yes.
have any ideas on stuff you want for us to do, shoot us some ideas and we can keep doing this. It's nice to have it. Sorry, got a granola bar I gotta open. There's my little minion.
COVID life.
Um,
Ah,
so there you go. So yeah, so if you guys have any ideas or whatever that you want us to talk about, please send us some and we can do some more of these. That would be fun.
yeah, definitely, definitely. We'll figure out how to go live in different places, but
Yeah, that'd be cool.
or we can alternate or something. But yeah, like let's do this some more. This is super
Yeah.
fun.
I keep saying we should do like an exercise one. Like,
We
how can you
can.
get your exercise during the day when you're a working person? Because that's like the biggest, one of the biggest hurdles that I hear a lot of. Like, how do I do that when I'm working? Maybe we should do something on how we can fit exercise into our day because that would be good.
Right. Or even just like a little like, things to counteract like sitting in front of a desk in front of a computer all day. Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
could definitely do that. That would be really fun.
All right,
Awesome.
guys. Well, let us know if you have any questions. And this will go up, I'm sure, everywhere on our Facebooks and
All
YouTube.
the places. Yeah.
And if you have any questions or comments or whatever, if you have ideas for us to talk about, hey, shoot them to us and we will do it.
That's right. All right, guys.
Yeah, have a good day.
Yeah, you too.